forward to it. Okay, so welcome again to our October Writers Resist reading. And Sarah, why don't you kick us off after you unmute yourself?
Thank you for the reminder. Hi, everybody. Our first reader tonight is Katie Avagliano. Hope I pronounced that correctly. She's going to be reading A Supreme Proposal. Katie teaches college writing in the Pine Barrens of South Jersey. She earned her MFA at American University, and her writing has appeared in Lunchbox, Bethesda Magazine, and elsewhere. Hi, Katie. Take it away.
Hello. Yep, I'm currently in the Pine Barrens, and yeah, I'll be reading Supreme Proposal. So, A Supreme Proposal by me, Katie Avagliano. I'm not saying cannibalism is the only option. If we're talking animalistic magnetism, the old horizontal tango, there are other ways to dispose of the sperm vehicles. Sure, arachnids control their own widowhood, and half of all Chinese mantises have copulations that end in the death of the male. In response, though, the male has adapted by becoming even more opportunistic in its coupling, i.e., sneaky and surprising. Perhaps hanging the threat of execution over the proceedings isn't enough to combat bad behavior. Powerful men seem only to look to the animal kingdom when it's convenient for explaining things like boys will be boys. They claim the alpha male cannot be expected to keep it in its pants when presented with the young, the fertile. But if a man yearns to be a snarling pack animal, I will be a kangaroo. I'll take you out in one kick. Plus, the kangaroo has 2 vaginas and the ability to suspend its own pregnancy. I could stop a growing fetus at its blastocyst stage. Kangaroos do this when they're waiting for warmer weather, waiting for the rain to come, waiting to feel safe once again. I'm not saying that post-coitus or only options involve me eating your innards or embryonic stasis. I'm saying it's important for you to know that if this door closes, I will 100% open the fire exit, the one with the blaring alarm that no one remembers the code to turn off. I'm saying that if you close this door that's been open since my mother's mother was getting it on, then you better be prepared for pretty grisly consequences. Because in the end, I'm no kangaroo, all downy hairs and fawny eyelashes. I'm not even a praying mantis eating the male who dared to try to get it on with me. If we do the boom chicka boom boom, and God forbid one of your little swimmers catches on, and we live in this dystopian reality where the powers that be say the choices afforded to animals in the outback don't exist under our star-spangled banner, in that scenario, we aren't humans or mammals or even terrestrial creatures. We are anglerfish, like the one in Finding Nemo with the light on its head. And you are the scrappy sperm-wielding parasite I have to support with my own food, my own beating heart. In exchange for this supposed legacy, you are nothing more than a growth on my side. It took decades for scientists to even find the male anglerfish, overlooking the unremarkable blip on the female's body as just some other ornament picked up in her transoceanic travels. And perhaps you're okay with leeching unwanted, shedding entire parts of yourself. Male anglerfish, once they burrow into the soft flesh of a female host, lose fins, eyes, organs. In the pursuit of fatherhood, they give up everything they are, becoming a worm on the side of a glowing queen of the deep. What I'm saying is, if you want to rewind us down to our base parts, then we should introduce some risk. If you try to make me nothing more than the ovaries I carry, then I will become sharp teeth, strong maw. In the end, there are still too many of us naked primates on this soft green earth. It is only good and just to root out the source of the problem. Spiders cannibalize on the flip of a coin, so how about heads I win, tails you lose? Would you walk into my parlor? That's it.
We love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really fabulously fun and so familiar.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Thank you, Katie. I'd like to now more formally introduce Dia Calhoun, who's going to be reading her poem Oratorio of Arrival. excuse me. Dia is the author of 7 young adult novels, brava, including 2 verse novels, After the River, The Sun, and Eva of the Farm. She won the Mythopoeic Fantasy Award for Children's Literature. Her poems have appeared in the Ectheo Review, and I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly, Dia, but Moria Literary Magazine. An article on Poetry Craft, co-authored with Deborah Bacharach, is forthcoming in the Writer's Chronicle. Dia is a co-founder of Reader Girls, recipient of the National Book Foundation Innovations in Reading Prize. She has taught at Seattle University, Stony Brook University, and the Cornish College. So welcome, Dia, and thank you for reading for us.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This poem I'm about to read has a Latin phrase, which I would like to translate for you in advance since it's a repeated phrase. And the phrase is Veni Magna Spirita, which is an invocation, meaning come great spirit, with the feminine form of that. Oratorio of Arrival for Ukraine, 2022. Because the woman hugs a green bottle, yellow wicked, and waits by the fabric store where she once bought blue wool for her coat, scarlet gingham for the kitchen window, coral flannel to snuggle her baby, somewhere now on the pouring road to Poland, Veni Magna Spirita. Because the composer holds his index finger, limber from black piano keys, on the trigger of an AK-47, a melody in B minor playing in his head, Veni Magna Spirita. Because the music is louder, the blue brighter than the tanks grinding down the street, Veni Magna Spirita. Because their eyes meet, because she lights the torch, because he pulls the trigger, singing his greatest opus, fuck you, bastard. Because she runs out, blue coat whirling, and throws Veni Magna Spirita. Crossing a different border, their baby looks up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dia, and thank you for writing about that. We've needed more now than ever. Sarah?
Hi, Heather Dorn is going to read Lithium in High Heels. Heather was born with a plastic spork in her mouth. As a child, her mother took her to Taco Bell, so she's Taco Bell obsessed. She grew up mostly in California and Texas, knowing Taco Bell is not Mexican food. Thank God there, Heather. But nostalgia is yummy. Heather's poetry, fiction, essays, and art can be found in journals like the American Poetry Review, Patterson Literary Review, Ragazine, and the Kentucky Review. She earned her PhD from SUNY Binghamton, where she is a lecturer. After work, she goes home to watch true crime. On the weekend, she wishes she had a washing machine, and now I'm just sad because you don't have a washing machine. Okay, take it away.
Thank you. But that small amount that you gave me goes toward possibly one day going to a place where I can get a washing machine. All right. Lithium in High Heels. Barbie's feet come preformed for sexiness, but the rest of us must learn to curve our arches like a playground slide. We start young, even as babies, barely able to walk, staggering up church or pageant steps, sparkling quarter-inch heels, lace dresses, makeup bruising our eyelids blue, punching our cheeks red. This for a trophy, some money, salvation, attention. When I'm out with my women friends, sometimes men will ask to buy me drinks. I usually say no because there's an implication that if I accept a drink, I owe him attention. Even when I say no, they often still bother me. You should sell thrift store watches to Boscovs, one man tried to convince me after I told him I was getting my PhD. Sometimes I say I'm married, or have a boyfriend, or have a girlfriend. Sometimes I let someone else's ownership of me be a reason so a man will listen to my no when I'm tired and my no is not standing on its own. Of course, I don't always say no. Once a friend asked how I got some pot lollipops I'd brought to a party. Someone gave them to me, I said. But who? She repeated. How much did they cost? I don't know. Someone said, do you want these? And I said, yes, and I took them. I hate you. She pretended to hit me. Beauty is subjective, except my mom says it isn't, and I can see her point. I don't have any physical reaction to that music, that poem, that mountain, that man, that woman, but I know she is considered beautiful. That eye matches that other eye, and this is beauty. I learned it from TV and magazines and movies and pageants, and the way my mother tilted her head in the mirror and knew her light. Sometimes an imperfection is called beautiful when it accompanies matching eyes. Beauty is subjective, except it isn't, like sanity. Is sanity subjective? Is sleeping in a closed, dark closet as a teen a quirk or a sign of manic depression? If you ask my mother, it's not normal. Is vacuuming at 3 a.m. insane? My mother says that's normal. And my mother knows what is correct, true, normal, attractive. She tells me how to be these things. She once told me I had my Aunt Julia's nose, thin and narrow, and she would help me get a nose job to fix it when I was old enough. To this day, I dislike my nose. I could not fix it now, though, because I have finally learned what I really look like, and so it's too late. It's hard for me to be attracted to someone who I don't know. The chasm between my feelings of attraction and the objective standards I know I'm supposed to use to gauge attractiveness leave me feeling an outsider in conversations about beauty. When other girls were falling in love with boy bands and actors on the covers of magazines, I was pining after characters from Victorian novels or 80s teen movies. I didn't want to kiss Molly Ringwald. I wanted to kiss Claire from The Breakfast Club. I didn't feel like Ali Sheedy, but Allison Reynolds, right down to the makeover at the end. I didn't want to date Judd Nelson, but John Bender, and I wanted to be and kiss Claire and to wear one or both diamond earrings she so easily gave away to her one-day makeout partner. Girls like Claire always had the right everything. It's not just clothes or hair or makeup or nails or shoes or bras or jewelry or purses. It's also the time and space and money to keep, use, and update these items. Makeup runs out, hair straighteners break, clothes go out of style. When I first started making semi-regular money babysitting, I spent it on drugstore makeup and the shampoo I wanted, coconut smell. Back then, I was still getting hand-me-down clothes and curlers and shoes. Now, almost all my shoes are new. My ex-husband never minded me spending money on my hair as long as I kept it long, but requested that I cut his hair so that he didn't have to pay to get it done. More than saving money, I think he was trying to avoid people. He hated people. The small talk was probably annoying to him as well, though he's much better at small talk than I am. Small talk is filling the air with noise when silence will do. He can talk to people for an hour about the weird Binghamton weather, get to know them slowly over a few years, and then still not really know them when they later move away. People will think he is a really nice guy and so cool for helping them move. They don't know he helped them move to get them out of his life. I will not help anyone move. It's tedious and I'm weak and tired. I will not talk for an hour about the weather. I don't check the weather or carry an umbrella. That's so much planning just to avoid water. And who remembers rain exists when the sun is out? Instead, I will run up to a new person, shake their hand, and launch a manic stream of words. My name is Heather. I'm bipolar and I like Indian food. Years ago, I was triggered by some PTSD and went through extensive therapy. I'm not close to my family. I'm so glad we will be teaching this course together this semester. I want to know people all at once. Or more correctly, I want them to know me all at once. It takes time to get to know someone, and I've got no time for that. But part of my bipolar brain can be not caring or caring so much that it stops me from interacting at all for fear of fucking up, like saying fuck at the wrong time. I was worried I was going to say fuck when I went to my ex-husband's first work dinner. Most of the people he worked with, including his boss, are nice, respectable Christian people. I doubted that they cared for my facial piercings, an eyebrow ring, tongue ring, lip ring, and nose ring at the time. I was sure that I was going to fuck up, irrationally nervous that when we prayed before the meal, I'd be called on to contribute. Hey, Jesus, thanks for this high fucking class food. Thanks for fucking dying for me and shit. P.S. I don't think your mom was a virgin. A fucking men. This would not work. I was out of practice with my high heels too. The day before the dinner, I spent hours in the the shoe section of Macy's trying on heels. I was teaching at the university, going to school full time, and had toddlers at home. I didn't feel at all connected to the person who had once worn heels. Her body was gone, and wearing heels was different now. 3 pregnancies had made my foot grow half a size. Size 9 heels looked huge when the clerk put the box next to me, a green pair nestled in the paper. I put them on and stood up, balancing on the thin pegs. They're not even that tall, the saleswoman anticipated my complaint. I don't think I can walk in them. I staggered around the department like a newborn puppy. You're not going to find any shorter. It had been hours and she was done with me. I was done with me too. I knew the dress needed heels. It was that kind of dress. The shoe lady told me, the dress lady told me, magazines told me, TV told me, movies told me, my mother told me. I knew I had to wear high heels with that dress and that dress to this event. I knew I had to go to this event and to not say fuck. I knew this was what was expected. It's sometimes hard to tell whether to do an expected thing or whether to jump out the window. My brain always teetering on the windowsill. My ex didn't go to my work events in uncomfortable clothes and painful shoes, but I've never driven him to the hospital when he wouldn't stop throwing a training wheel down the driveway or listened to him worry for hours about a sent email. Relationships are not equal. This is mathematically impossible. Once, shortly after moving to Binghamton, he and I were walking through the mall with our kids and his parents in tow. His mother was getting on my nerves. She had a way of slapping me in the face and making it look like a caress. I was arguing with him instead of his mother because arguing with her wasn't an option because he never stuck up for me. His parents were not the type of people to show emotion, especially not in public. The only acceptable emotion was laughter, and even then, let's not be rude about it. I was growing angrier and louder as we argued until he finally asked me to quiet down. That was when I turned around in the middle of the mall, my children and in-laws standing behind, and yelled, "Fuck off." Later, recalling the fuck off incident, we would laugh. This was once I had been on Depakote Seroquel lithium cocktail for a few years, and he probably didn't feel the weight of my altered states any longer. Sanity is subjective, except it isn't. But not every part of mania is bad. Some people say they wouldn't be bipolar if they could choose, but it affects everyone differently, and some days I feel I won the neurological lottery. I remember the times when I had sex with my ex before he went to work, called him home for sex at lunch, and then begged for sex when he walked through the door at night. I remember wearing high heels all day, catching a glimpse of my legs in the full-length mirror, my brain buzzing at the sleek shimmer of glitter lotion that made me feel like magic. It was hard to think of anything other than sex, and it was never enough. But this would only last a couple of weeks, usually followed by a crash. And the crashes were low, weeks in bed, extreme physical pain just from being, crying daily all day. It's impossible for me to remember the way it felt because I can only feel that distorted when my perception is altered. I do remember many moments when I thought everyone I knew would be better off without me around. I also thought about driving off an overpass. And mania could be a problem too. Feeling like a god was countered with the paranoia that everyone I knew was talking about me behind my back, hated me, that my husband of over 20 years was conspiring to leave me to be with an unattractive woman with even eyes and a perfect nose. Hypomania is less intense. When I was hypomanic in my master's program, I planned a semester in a weekend, class plans for 15 weeks in 3 days. When hypomanic, I paint, I write, I even clean. I don't need to sleep. I love the way I feel, like being high, but better because I'm high on me and I'm all throughout my veins. The medication takes this away from me. And the depression and the mania, it takes all these away from me. It makes me more level, more like myself or less like myself, whichever way you see it. I also take pills for attention tremors, which are caused by the lithium. The tremors occur anytime I'm trying not to shake, which makes putting my nail polish on much harder than in the past. I try to put on new polish once a week, but it has been every 2 to 3 weeks lately. When I'm putting on nail polish, I can't really do anything but put on nail polish. I can watch TV or listen to music or have a conversation, but that's all I can do. And sometimes I do none of this. I do my nails in silence, in nothingness. I'm trapped in a space of open blankness and I can't leave until the paint dries. Some people like my nails and tell me, my lovers, a colleague, a student. I'm glad they like my nails, even though I did my nails for the reflection time, for the moments I look down typing and think they look like candy, for licking them when I'm done, for the pictures I get of them shining on a coffee mug that make me feel like I'm a hand model, for some feeling of accomplishment, for some discovery of art. It's been a few years since I started my current cocktail of medication, and I sometimes wonder if I take it to make myself more comfortable or to make everyone around me more comfortable. Of course, it does both, but I wonder what my goal is. Most days, I think I take it for me, so I can wake up in the morning and get to work, so I can go the day without telling a friend to fuck off, so I can think about something other than sex. But some days, I think I take it for everyone else. The world is set up for people who don't need to take pills. I wonder if I could ever be cured, though no one ever has. I decide it's not a disorder, being bipolar. Maybe it's okay to feel like a god. Maybe it's okay to see colors like flavors. Maybe it's all right to stay up all night until I fall over asleep from exhaustion, a pen still in my fingers. I don't want to take my medication, but I must work tomorrow, so I swallow my pills. I'm always glad I did in the morning. I argue with myself every night. Thank you.
That's so wonderful, Heather. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And read the comments. I'd like to now introduce Flavian Mark Lupinetti. Am I saying that correctly, Mark? Who needs to unmute himself, perchance?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Flavian Mark Lupinetti, a poet, fiction writer, and cardiac surgeon, received his MFA from the Vermont College of Fine Arts. His work has appeared in About Place, Barrel House, Bellevue Literary Review, Briarcliff Review, Cutthroat, Sport Literate, and I never know how to say this, Zizava.
Zizava.
Zizava. One day, maybe they'll accept something of mine. Mark lives in New Mexico and has recently retired. So once again, congratulations. More writing, maybe. You have the floor, Mark.
Thank you. Velocity squared. When the gun smoke clears and the EMTs bring the bodies to my ER, and I ask why they bothered, and they say, we need someone to pronounce them. Most times I say, you pronounce them just fine. But today I can't bear to make that joke because these aren't so much bodies as they are gobbets of protoplasm subordinated to the law of physics that dictates force equals mass over 2 times velocity squared. When the gun smoke clears, I reflect how clever of Eugene Stoner, who shrewdly designed his AR-15 to fire rounds of a petite 223 caliber, but to propel them at 3,200 feet per second. Because how else to penetrate steel plate at 500 yards or disarticulate a leg from the pelvis with a flesh wound below the knee, unless you rely on velocity squared? When the gun smoke clears, it still amazes me that these headless corpses and these exploded chests each resulted from a single shot. Yet it makes perfect sense mathematically. If you want to create an exit wound the size of an orange with a bullet smaller around than your Bic pen, you need that velocity squared. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Boy, do we love this issue, but boy, is some of it really hard. Thank you for writing it. Thank you all for writing and sharing. Sarah?
Yes, I was thinking in my head, Jesus, Mark. Okay, Renee Marzouk is our new poetry and prose editor at Writers Resist, and we love him. After completing a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, Renee is on the path to finish his English MA at the same institution and is already considering his next steps. Accidentally born in Ukraine to Cuban parents, he grew up in Havana, Cuba, and migrated to the United States as an adult. He's currently a contributing editor of The Envious Lobster, a collection of 19th century American children's nature writing where he focuses on rescuing the works of non-white and child authors. Overall, his research interests include modern American literature and literary cultural intertextuality. Thanks for putting that word in the bio I had to read, KB. Children's literature, cultural studies, semiotics, another good one when you have a speech impediment, code switching practices, and articulation of marginal identities in literary works, among others. Both inside and outside of academia, Renee has worn and continues to wear many hats. As of right now, he writes poetry, runs, takes pictures, and dabbles in drawing and illustration. He lives in High Point, North Carolina. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. I need to work on making that smaller. I'm sorry. I'm going to be reading a poem. The title is Feeding the Goldfish. We walk to the edge of the pond at the far end of the backyard. A pond dirty and small, slightly bigger than a bathtub, filled with plants and fish carefully chosen for their ability to survive off each other. An ecosystem to offer. A grubby Eden. Colored shapes appear and disappear within the murky waters, like spilled glass marbles or ghosts drowned in sfumato, dodging our gifts. Each crumb is an excess to be pondered. Kindness, many a time, finds its way into a contract. How much, just how much exactly, will this miracle cost us? Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And again, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah. I am now delighted to reintroduce Penny Perry, a longtime writerly friend whose work often makes me cry or laugh or just want to hug her, or all three. Penny has written about an incident in her family a number of times in just really fabulous ways. So I want to welcome her yet again, Penny. She's a 7-time Pushcart nominee. She's published a poetry collection, Santa Monica Disposal and Salvage. Her novel, Selling Pencils and Charlie, was a finalist in the San Diego Book Awards in 2020. And her new poetry collection is Woman with Newspaper Shoes. It was published in June of this year by Garden Oak Press. Welcome, Penny.
I'm sorry, Penny, we cannot hear you.
Muted. Here I am. I'm here. I'm going to read 2 poems from Writers Resist. Secrets in the Gazebo from my Aunt Leona Heyer Charlton, who died at age 33. We are looking at the mockingbird in the lemon tree. This is the first day of my cousin's summer visit. I wriggle closer to her. I know how my mother died, Wendy whispers. The gazebo is the place for secrets. My Aunt Leona was almost famous. She wrote plays that were on Broadway, did crossword puzzles in ink. On a cold spring day when silly girls wore sundresses and shivered, Aunt Leona wore a smart wool suit and pinned a spring violet on her lapel. Wendy's mother died when Wendy was only 7 months old. My cousin squints at the sun shooting off the adobe tile roof. The jasmine smells sweet. She is 13. I am 11. She had an abortion, Wendy says. Her eyes are bright. She loves telling me things I'm not supposed to know. Abortion, I repeat. Grandpa taught us to sound out long words. Grandma calls my cousin an orphan, even though she has a father. My mother didn't want to have a second baby so soon. A baby? It wasn't a baby. Your mother drove her to the bad doctor. She wouldn't do that, but she did. I blocked my wet face with my sleeve. The excitement has left my cousin's eyes. Now I know why sometimes mother locks the bathroom door, turns the water on full blast. She thinks I don't hear her cries. Wendy has long legs and her feet touch the ground. My legs dangle and the tie on the right sneaker has come undone. And this is the second poem, also from the Writers Resist. My mother's letter to her best friend, June 5th, 1942. Dear Isabel, I drove my sister to the doctors in Los Angeles. It all happened so quickly. I promised to bring her chocolate phosphate when it was over. She joked with the nurses, told them if she puked from ether, she'd buy each of them a pair of nylon stockings. She insisted on ether because her friend Hannah had told her an abortion would be too painful without it. In the waiting room, I picked up a movie magazine. During the next 10 minutes, I heard a harsh breathing, as though she were gasping. I told myself she would breathe differently under ether. A nurse rushed to the telephone to call an emergency. My knees collapsed. I remember the sounds of sirens on the street, footsteps on the stairs, the hissing, horrible sounds of the oxygen tent. I remember words like, her pulse rate is low. She has a 7-month-old baby at home. Isn't it a pity? Finally, the doctor came in and said, your sister is dead. The bastard didn't even have the sense to shut the door. I could see her head thrown back on the table. He told me to stop screaming. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Penny. Unfortunately, ever more timely. Yowza.
Yep, it is infuriating. Next up is Lorna Rose reading What I Learn from the June issue. Lorna Rose is a Pacific Northwest writer and speaker. Her narrative, nonfiction, and poetry have been recognized by Pacific Northwest Writers Association and the Oregon Poetry Association, and have appeared in About Place Journal, Third Wednesday, Jellyfish Review, Scary Mommy, and elsewhere. Lorna also speaks publicly on motherhood, finding resilience through writing, and her experience in AmeriCorps. She is at work on a memoir about going from LA party girl, yeehaw, to in rural Alaska. Take it away, Lorna.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all the editors for bringing us all together. This is such a treat. I love this. So I'm going to read a poem from Writers Resist. It came out in the June issue. And then I would also love to read a poem from Third Wednesday that came out last summer. So I'll go ahead and start with What I Learn. I listen to the sweaty silence, his throbbing presence as he stares at my developing chest. I learn to calculate the tides, learn his breath smells like mints when he's offering me up. Men's gazes have teeth. Pivot and scan for the response he wants at the appropriate time. You're pretty. Perform for me. Legs and boobs get you far. They open doors to bedrooms where all good girls go. Learn to hide and calculate the tides. Aren't you proud you made your father happy? The second poem is the one from Third Wednesday from last summer. And I chose this one because women, I think, are known as like the complicated ones. You know, we're the complicated sex, and that is regarded as shameful or not a good thing, at least negative. And so I believe one form of resistance is to embrace your complication because it's beautiful, and we can sit with ourselves in a way that's beautiful and amazing. So this poem is dedicated to my daughter, who is now 7. And she is a creative, bright, wonderfully sensitive girl. And her complications started in the womb. So this is about that time when I was carrying her. It's called After Birth. Someday I'll tell you about the day I found out about you, about the thin black line indicating your existence and my screams. I don't want you. I don't want you. And the guilt. I'll tell you about the abnormal test result and all the questions about kidneys forming, heart beating, and the high miscarriage rate. And maybe a goodbye is just as well, and the guilt. Someday I'll tell you about how I labored all day, still grocery shopping and drinking tea at Taste Buds till I could no longer speak without moaning. And telling your dad it's time, and tucking your brother in and trying to walk, and a stranger grabbing me a wheelchair, your weight jackhammering my hips. Someday I'll tell you about the pushing right after the meds wore off, about the time I told you not to be scared. You just come right out, baby. I'm here. I'll tell you about the day you fought, the day you surprised the doctors and lived. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. That's lovely. And read your comments. Okay, let's come back around to Katie. Katie, do you have another piece to share with us? Let's see if we still have Katie. Let's see. No, I think we lost Katie. Okay. Hi, Sherry. Dia, do you have another piece to share with us? You have the floor.
Okay, let me get my screen ducks in a row here. So this poem is after Louise Gluck, and it's titled Love to the Bone. Arrived at the end of my last pilgrimage. Boots kicked off on the white marble steps outside the abbey. Heart still rocked by the black Madonna. My old feet breathe, their ache, sunlit, free of how far they've carried me. Yet, so many roads call, like the Camino de Santiago, sainted bones shrined in silver at the end. But why limp another step, knowing I'll never reach the cathedral now? Why shake your dark head like I've learned nothing from the miles, still thinking like a young woman in love with destination? Do you mean my sitting here, rubbing oil on my sore feet, is another kind of pilgrimage? Frankincense palmed over my fallen arch, toes caressing my rough soul, smoky sweet, scent of orange groves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dia. Lovely. Heather, do you have another thing to share, another piece to share?
I brought a poem. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So remember when we all had to go on Zoom, like we had to? So this is a poem for that. It's just called Zoom. Dear colleagues, welcome to my home. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I'm poor. Welcome to my poor. This computer that loads a hypnotic color wheel instead of connecting to the internet. This signal cutting in and out. This keyboard that sticks. K's falling down the page, this pile of dirty bras beside me, this picture of a naked woman behind me. Welcome to my unclassiness. Welcome past my teaching persona to the cave where I hide my plastic furniture and forget to toss my beer bottles for a week. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I'm sorry for the gnats circling dirty dishes. Welcome to my depression. Welcome to my unpredictable cat jumping on my back, the barking of my dog at every screech of tires. Welcome to my downstairs neighbor yelling, "Fucking asshole," at some video game. Nobody complains when I scream at night. This is our contract. Welcome to my neighborhood, to the cobwebs I don't have the time or supplies to clean. Please take a mental note of the dildo you think you see in the lower left corner of our video meeting. Later, you may realize it was a curling iron, but this won't matter. Your mind branding me a sex-crazed cat lady with curly, twirly hair, my secrets setting up civilizations in your head. Thank you.
That was fabulous and oh so relatable. Okay, let's see. Mark, do you have another piece to read?
I do.
Yay.
Civil. My brother, the prosecuting attorney, advised me to chill. He said, the moral arc of the universe bends toward justice. I asked, did it bend toward justice for the guy who said that? But he hadn't a clue who I meant. My clue that he harvested those words from a bumper sticker, his rosy perspective hog-tied into irrelevance by cobwebs of complacency constructed half a century ago, an era of weapons less plenteous, avarice, bigotry, and stupidity less regarded as virtuous, the empire not as close to collapse. Why, when we contemplate a future civil war, do we imagine only a rebellion of the right? yahoos in red baseball caps, rugby shirts, and khaki pants, billionaire finance, police force equipped, kidnapping a governor or dynamiting a courthouse? What if they simply seize the levers of government? Elections mutated into zombie referendums, all results not preordained, overturned. What if we face the choice of acquiescence or rebellion? Do we fall to fascism or select secession with Sacramento or Boston, our latter-day Richmond? What if this time the first person to fire on Fort Sumter has to be one of us? Thank you.
Ooh, she said, wowie. Nice work. Renee, do you have another piece to read for us?
I do have, I can read another poem.
Yeah.
It's titled Shameless. Where do I find you? Underneath the sheets, there was just a body struggling with its own translation. I am not this body, you said. Don't judge me for it. Where do I find you? The maps you gave me quit working the moment they became essential. I couldn't follow. It is the Adderall, you said. My intentions were good. As a child, I convinced myself the number 4 held magical powers. I did everything 4 times. I thought I had quit for good the day after a stranger saw me slapping myself on the sidewalk 4 times and asked if he could do it for me 4 times. I thought shame had cured whatever ailed me, but now I tap my head 4 times against the pillow before falling asleep by your side, wherever you are.
Nicely done, Renee. Nicely done.
Thank you.
I think we might have, oh no, Penny, do you have another poem for us? You're muted, Penny.
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
We used you up last night. Lorna, do you have another poem or piece? Let's see.
I read mine. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay. I think we have done it, but let me just ask if there's anyone who's joined us who has something short they'd like to share. I know a few of the people who logged in are writers, so a few of our guests. Anyone want to be brave? Okay, I think that we have got, oh wait, nope, I'm sitting here in my robe. Come on, Tara. Tara actually has something coming up in a near future issue of Writers Resist. Karen appeared. Karen, do you have anything you want to share? You're muted, Karen.
I'm just trying to find it. Here it is. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, this is coming out soon in Hole in the Head review. I don't know. There may be some of you who don't know who Goldie Hawn and Sandy Duncan are, but they're actresses and they had short blonde hair, you know, sort of the cheerful, perky sort of people. Anyway, this isn't a particularly political poem, but it's kind of a fun poem. It's called In Praise of Mistaken Identity. Goldie Hawn and Sandy Duncan were not my idols, and I was irritated when people told me I resembled them. Didn't they resemble me? Perhaps it was just the haircut. Taking compliments at face value isn't easy when you're young. Look outside yourself for a change. The red-breasted nuthatch looks like the white-breasted nuthatch, just a little more ruddy. Yesterday, as I stood gazing at the lilac's spent lavender, A wren landed, rustling, then spun and launched toward me at eye level, a winged missile that landed on my hat. Did I look like a fence post? When I stirred, the wren took off, pulling me up into the sugar maple, singing. Thanks.
Thank you. Debbie Hall, one of our poetry editors, has a piece she'd like to read, and then something from Debbie Baccarat.
All right, thanks, KB. So, we talk a lot lately about the things that have changed and the things that haven't changed. So it took me back to a poem that reflects a time long ago when I was an undergraduate. And it's called Self-Portrait with Redneck and Vintage Squad Car. Looking back at myself, looking out the nicotine-stained window of an old squad car helmed by a gas station attendant who was offered to drive me 50 miles north to my college. I don't know how the mind works so fast, balancing need against risk as dusk deepens and tumbleweeds roll in like dust storms along the highway. My own car's engine has been stilled like a shot deer, steam rising from its warm intestines. The man sitting next to me wears an oil-stained shirt with a frayed name patch. Earl warns of the dangers for a white girl like you in the next town ahead. Paris, California, not Paris, France, haha. The words, too many colored people, slide out of his mouth like thick drool. My Black boyfriend's face arises in front of me, floats out the open window. Do I say something here? I don't know how the mind works so fast, decides to erase an impulse, directs the fist to unclench. Earl tunes his police scanner with the precision of a picklock. Local crime reports fill the cars inside with urgent music. We pass by a lone farm worker leaning against a lamppost, its dim light yellowing his rich brown skin. Earl sucks air through his teeth. The lit outline of the campus Carillon Tower appears up ahead like a last wish, the rest of my life gleaming before me. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. That thick drool got me. I grew up in the South, so yeah. Debbie Baccarat, you have the floor.
Okay, thanks for letting me join in. So this poem refers to Deborah and Yael from the Bible in Judges 4, where Deborah's a judge and she recruits Yael for the war effort. Not a thought experiment. If I were asked, like Deborah asked Yael, in the name of the words we polish like coins, to lure a general, hammer through his temple, could I? Could I throw a Molotov cocktail at a tank so the boy in the wrong country, in the wrong war explodes? All the words he meant to send his mother. Aztecs sacrificed children so they and everything in the earth would grow. Can any of us bear to hear the children scream? Could I take my body to the front, put it in front of tanks? In these cities, women owned functioning washing machines, and now they torque their bodies into tent pegs. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Debbie. I think we're going to close the evening with a piece from Dia.
Okay, thank you. This piece is titled Damming the River. On the appointed Sunday, the pastor floods the baptismal box behind the altar with chlorinated water. Painted on the backdrop, the God-man, a red marble dripping in each palm. My parents pry themselves from their ritual Sunday morning, peace and quiet with the Seattle Times, to endure the cinder block church. 9 years old, doused in cherub white, I sneak outside to wait my turn, following solemn instructions to pray to my Lord and Savior. I skip round and round the flaming maple. Wisha, wisha, wisha. I chant a river, to branch, to trunk, to sky. Lines from my sacred book, the magic faraway tree. A scarlet leaf whirling falls in a puddle on the concrete, sinks. When the pastor calls my legal name, I leave my red rubber boots behind, descend 4 steps into the still waters. He, praying, bends me back. I would not have believed, never believed. He was but the first of many who would hold me under in a vain attempt to drown my holy wild. Thank you.
Wow. Wowie. Southern Baptist?
Yeah.
Me too. Well, that was really, sorry, that just really hit home for me. That's how I was raised. So yikes, what a great line. And thank you. Okay, I want to thank everybody this evening. This was such a treat for me. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you for resisting. Thank you for challenging the things that are just so horribly upsetting right now. Moments like this make it a lot easier to get up the next morning and go punch somebody, as our Speaker of the House suggested she might do, and be happy about it while she goes to jail. So thank you again. And I will send out notice to everybody when we have our next one. The next issue will come out in December, and the reading will in all likelihood be in January. Will cheer us up a moment. So thanks to all. And I will be posting this, so you'll be able to find it and share it if you want on our website. Stop this.